So the slides are in the chat if you want to have a copy. They have links on them, so might be something you can use later on.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself and keep
Okay.
adding
Right.
people as they're entering and
Okay,
dropping.
So
and we'll
just
go
get
ahead and
started.
get started.
Okay, I guess we'll introduce ourselves. Well, first of
Yes.
all, welcome everybody. This is the CalECSE, and we're going to explain what that is, but it's a California Early Childhood Special Education Network. In case you didn't know, this is a great resource that we have for our state. And today we're going to just talk a little bit about the CalECSE network and then a little bit about inclusive practices. So let me see. There we go.
Yeah. So
And so I'm Susan Langer. I am a exemplar lead for inclusive practices or innovative and inclusive practices with the CalEXE project. And I'm also a program specialist for the Sonoma County SELPA, that's the Special Education Local Plan Area, and also our charter SELPA.
and I'm Marion Springett. I am the California Early Childhood Special Education Network Project Coordinator, so otherwise known as the CalEXE Project Coordinator. And I am also with the Saddleback Valley Unified School District. That's where I have spent the bulk of my career as a school psychologist and then an administrator working in primarily early education, early childhood education. So just thrilled to be here today to be able to share resources and information with everybody. Okay, next. So on this slide, we wanted to just give you kind of a little nutshell of what CalEXE is. And if you'd like to share this information with your colleagues or other people that you know, please feel free to do so. We are fairly new. CalEXE has been in existence for about a year and a half now, but really up and running for approximately 1 year now. We are a technical assistance provider for the state of California. We are funded by the California Department of Education, and we are really here to address IDEA Part C to Part B transitions, assessments, and look at program options and inclusive options for students. We're here to provide support and help to LEAs, county offices of education, SELPAs, regional center agencies, community agencies, whoever really needs help in any of the areas that we support. We are here to do that. And this is all funded by CDE. So we are here and you can spread the word. We're a great resource to be able to support people out in the field. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
And I just wanted to say that the website is being developed right now, but you will be able to access different trainings that we're doing throughout the year. So it's just a great
Yes.
resource.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, the website, we do have a website up and running, but we are revising it and revamping it. And probably within the next 1 to 2 weeks, that's when you'll see a lot of the previous trainings and things that we did. They'll be up and accessible for everybody. So if you go ahead and visit the website, please do come back in about a week or so that you can see the new and improved website. So I'll talk a little bit about why we are doing this, the why. I think we all know the why, but early identification and intervention, we know that that's key, right? It really improves the lives and outcomes for students and families of children with special needs in California. And so again, we really want to focus on making sure that we are helping to improve transitions, making sure that they're occurring in a timely manner. We want to make sure that assessments are occurring and that there are options for inclusive, high quality programs throughout the state of California. And that's what we're here really charged to do. And we're here to support you all in doing. So today we're going to be talking a little bit with a focus on inclusive practices and inclusion. But we are here to support several different areas, which we'll show you here in just a moment. If you want to go to the next slide, Susan. So this is kind of how our network is set up. We have leadership that is wonderful. We have Dr. Scott Turner from the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA. He's the co-executive director along with Melanie Hertig from Irvine. And they are heading up and they are the co-executive directors of the CalECSE network. I am the CalECSE coordinator, so I'm that kind of dark blue right there. And then the green areas that are sort of that apple green color, these are the areas that we have exemplar practices. Well, we have staff with exemplar practices in place that can help support anybody who needs support. I'm going to just go ahead and admit somebody. So we are able to provide support regarding interagency collaboration, assessment practices in terms of the actual assessments being conducted and trainings and things with regards to that. Assessment team leadership. We have an exemplar who is able to talk about how to take referrals, make sure that you get them in a timely manner and have staff who can handle them in a timely manner and whatnot. Preschool child find. We have staff from First Five California and Help Me Grow and some of the other entities out in California that are able to provide information about the referral processes and how we can improve our child find practices. We have parent outreach and support exemplars that are part of some family empowerment centers and really, really great information going out to families about the transition processes as children are turning 3 and moving from Part C to Part B. We have staff who addresses data governance and kind of, those indicators, reporting on those indicators, as well as inclusive and innovative practices. So these are the real target areas that we have staff in, and we are more than happy to link you with staff if you are somebody or work in an agency that needs any support or help with any of these areas. We're here to do that. And then we have also, as you see at the bottom, in the darker green, same slide, the geographical technical assistance facilitators. So what that is we have people who are working and living in various regions throughout California, which we're going to show you a map in just a moment. But those folks are, the boots on the ground that know the areas and know kind of the services and agencies that are in those areas that can help link people to supports that they might need or agencies that they're looking to find and whatnot. So we'll go into that a little bit more as we move through the slides, but that's just kind of an overview of how the network is set up. Okay, Susan, next. All right, so here's the map I was just referring to. We based this on the California Superintendent's regional map. And so those geographic technical assistance facilitators that were those dark green colors at the bottom of your screen, those are the folks that live in these different regions throughout California. And you can see which counties fall within each region here on this map. This is also information that's on our website, and the names of those folks are also on the website. Again, we are kind of revamping the website and it will be ready in about a week, but you can still go to it now. You can still see the people who are in those areas now. And we are more than happy to put you in touch with these folks if you need support in any area or region. We're happy to do that. Okay, next. So I'll just talk a little bit more about the exemplar leads for our network and what they do. So basically they are connecting LEAs, other agencies, anyone who is seeking support with people who have the expertise in the areas needed. And we also are going to be providing technical assistance to and professional learning opportunities to districts who may have been identified by the state just as needing some support. So that will be happening as well. Right now, we are supporting lots of different agencies and districts just who have reached out to us just on a voluntary basis, and we're linking them up with appropriate resources or information that they might need. Those exemplar leads are also coordinating with those geographic technical assistance facilitators, as well as the CalECSE leadership team, really assisting others to build capacity, to gain knowledge, to collaborate, and to implement evidence-based practices. So we are putting on trainings and community of practice groups and whatnot to help do this, which will be available. The previous ones, we're starting to record them and they'll be available on our website. Not all of them were previously recorded, but we're starting to do that now, and they'll be available on our website in the near future. Okay, next. Just a slide about our geographic technical facilitators. Again, they're just also providing those linkages for people, the agencies, the LEAs, people within their regions that might need support. And they are also participating in ongoing meetings to build capacity, to develop resources, assist the leadership team and everybody who needs support in finding support in the areas that they need it. So I know this is a little bit redundant, but it's just information to make sure that you understand the different roles. But if you reach out to us at CalECSE, as the coordinator, I'm more than happy to link anybody up with the appropriate personnel that they need support or to talk with to gain the support that they might need. Thank you. Next slide. Oh, I think we went too far.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. No,
Oh, nope.
there we go.
So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the network and how we kind of developed the areas that we are supporting in. So we used surveys, and we sent out first a really big survey to as many people as we could throughout the state of California. We had it go out via many different listservs, and we had tremendous response. And what it was people, people in the field that are at various levels of practice were able to respond and tell us what was needed or what they would like for trainings or what they feel is missing and that kind of a thing. So we collected a lot of information about varying viewpoints, perceived needs, where there's gaps and holes, where things maybe aren't working well. And then based on that, we identified key areas that we needed to provide support in. And we started to develop trainings and things around that we could offer. And we do most of our trainings virtually, although we are going to have some in-person events coming up that we'll talk about at the end. But so what we did was we used that survey data and we used it to inform a strategic action plan. And we got together and we dug through the data and looked at what are the needs, what is needed by everybody out there. What are you as educators at varying levels telling us you need to be able to be successful with supporting children with special needs throughout the state? Okay, next slide. So then we developed our CalECSE goals, and that really again was we want to provide technical assistance, we want to provide professional learning, demonstration of tangible practices, things that are working well. How do people do what's working well? How did they develop it? All of that, kind of a blueprint for all of that. We wanted to support and provide information about how people who are successfully completing transitions and assessments from Part C to Part B, how they're going about that, how they're tracking the referrals, how they're making sure that the assessments are completed in a timely manner, and making sure that they're thorough and addressing all areas of concern. So we put all of that together and we started to develop evidence-based practices and effective strategies that can be used and that people can replicate throughout the state, as well as instructional strategies for students with disabilities and what's working. So we have today, a little bit later in the slides, some information to share with you, just pertaining in particular to inclusion and inclusive strategies. And I think it's going to be really, really helpful information, I hope. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay, next slide. And then just some of the actions and things that you can look for that will be available. And you can also follow us on social media. We can get that information into the chat on how to do that. But we put together some video projects. These are really exciting. I think we've released 2 of them so far. They're coming out every other week or so. There's 6 in total that we did over the last year. And really what we did was we wanted to highlight in each of those exemplar areas what is needed and what can educators do to be successful. So we have those videos that are coming out that you can watch. They're great conversation starters if you want to watch them or share them with your leadership team. I would encourage you to do that. We interviewed administrators, educators, parents. So there's a lot of content and a lot of viewpoints in those videos. They're only about 6 to 7 minutes long each. So I would encourage you to look for it. And we'll be posting those within the next week or two at the most. They'll be available on our website as well. We also have training opportunities that we have training opportunities that are going on through virtual training opportunity options, and we've been sending out flyers for those. So there's different kinds of trainings. There's also community of practice groups where we do a little bit of informational training, but then have a Q&A session at the end so that people can ask questions or share resources. And then we're developing a number of resources that are going up on our website. They'll be up on the website very, very soon. We're in kind of the final phase of that resource development right now, and we'll have ongoing resources that we will be developing. But the ones that are coming out, for example, one of them is, looking at educational eligibility for autism versus medical medical criteria for an eligibility for or a medical diagnosis of autism, and kind of comparing and contrasting those two differences. Things like that will be really hopefully helpful tools, one page kind of check sheets and things like that will be really, really helpful. So those will be available soon up on the website. Okay, next slide.
Okay. There we go. Okay, this is
So,
me.
yes, I'm going to turn it over to Susan.
Yay!
And I want to just say at the very end, we will talk about additional resources and also a symposium that we have coming up in March of 2024. There is a link to a flyer, so we'll have you check that out. I just want to say that just in case anybody can't stay for the entire presentation, do check that out. It's going to be in person in San Diego. It's going to be awesome, covering a multitude of topics. But right now we're going to talk in depth about inclusion. So I'll turn it over to Susan, and we're going to talk about what is inclusion. Okay, Susan.
So yeah, that's my focus here at the SELPA. I came to the SELPA from running a district preschool program and special education, and just the barriers, the constant barriers I got from whether it was the lack of training that I was unaware of, or the barriers from, just the fact that maybe licensing didn't understand inclusion, and I had barriers that way. So it became a passion of mine here at the SELPA to really support others. So I'm really happy to be a part of this project, because I think if we all have everything, all the resources together, you won't be scrambling to get support for your programs. So I like to always do a little something, it's called Mentimeter. You can also put your answers into the chat, but I thought it'd be fun. So what you do is you hold up your phone and you can do the little QR code. And you could also put it into your computer. I can bring up the code for your computer if you don't have a phone, or you can just put it in the chat. And it brings it up, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, here it is. Here's my little Mentimeter. Oops, sorry about that. Let's present that. There we go. So that is the instructions. So you have your QR code, or you can put in www.menti.com, and that's the code. Okay, I'm going to bring up the slide if you all are ready. Give me a thumbs up, or give me you can tap this little thing there and let me know that you're in. There you go. Yay. Okay, got one little tap. I got a thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Another thumbs up. Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna, and you could definitely just put it in the chat as well. Oh, let's do that. I don't know why it's not. Okay, so what is inclusion? Just what's the first word that you think of when you think of inclusion? If you could just type in your answers. Okay. And you may have to go to the slide if you weren't on this. let's see what we have so far. Okay. Belonging, togetherness, all. Okay. All one. Okay. Here, I think I have some in the chat. I have some in the chat. Oh, access for all, everyone, socialization included. Those are all just very powerful statements. And it's just, I think we all agree that inclusion is what benefits not only our students with disabilities, but our students without disabilities. It benefits our community as a whole. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to our slides. Okay. Oops. Okay, there we are. So it's really important for us to just start with, why are we even here? Why are we doing this? It's a lot of work, but it's work that needs to be done. And so, it's not only, it's a philosophy and a practice, but it is also best practices, right? And so it's not only something we feel good about, but it's something that benefits our students and our children. And so students are general education first. So once we start thinking that way and start putting them on as labels, because I think labels scare people, start thinking of them as who they are now, and then what supports do they need to be successful, right? And maybe thinking that ahead of time. So for example, if you're creating an inclusive environment, right? You want access for all. And so I don't know if we've all heard of the term UDL, Universal Design Learning, but we want to make sure we cater to all learners. So if we think of that in advance, then we aren't scrambling to create as our students who are different learners as they come in, right? And that's not only unique to IEPs. If we start planning for all learners, then some of our students may not need extra support, right? Because they have all the support they need. Environments are set up with access in mind, movement, adaptive technology and equipment, which could be actual technology, but it could also be visuals on a wall, right? Sensory strategies, movement within the environment. I could tell you right now, I'm ready to stand up and move. That's how I think. I'm always moving. I'm always moving my hands, but that's how I focus. But guess who got in trouble for that at school, right? Me. Transitional supports. Let's see, visual supports, routines, making sure routines are taught and the expectations around those routines are taught, and the expectations around different parts of their environment are taught, whether it's the center or the outside play, all of those expectations have to be taught and reminded, right?
And Susan, I'd like to add something.
Yes.
It is so important when we're talking about access and having the environment set up for our youngsters. It's so important to remember that, and I've seen this happening before, that we have to teach children what the expectations are and what the words that we're telling them mean. And I've seen so many times where that maybe hasn't happened. So there might not be enough visual support, or, for example, with young children, they might be told, okay, quiet hands, or sit still, or, quiet, let's keep our mouths quiet, or catch a bubble so that we don't, talk, and things like that during circle time or whatever, when the learning is going on with the teacher talking. And yet sometimes the little children, they don't know what those things mean. They haven't been specifically taught what that means. So access means that not only we have all of the environment ready, but that we're specifically teaching and pre-teaching what those what those kinds of things mean for our students. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because sometimes that's kind of, the forgotten part of it. We have everything ready, but we haven't pre-taught or taught the students what exactly that means, or how to use those visuals and information.
Especially when a person, whether it's an adult or a child, is dysregulated, right? Those expectations are not in the forefront of of anybody's thought. And so just those reminders are so helpful. I was thinking about this, Marion, I'm driving and I was speeding a little bit. And those flashing signs saying you're going past the speed limit, that helps me as that's an expectation. I should be doing the whatever the speed limit is. So I think even as adults, we need those reminders and those learning those expectations for us.
Yes, I think
Oh,
we all appreciate those little flashers that tell us to slow down.
yes, I need those all the time. So here are some great, just different types of visual, not only reminders, but actual schedules. And, I had a preschool when we first were working on inclusion. It was new to everybody. And we did these schedules just for the students with special, who had IEPs. And then some of the other kids were really interested and really drawn to the schedules, the picture schedules. So we did them for all the students. And it was just amazing. They really benefited. It helped them regulate and know what was coming next. We had many students who were still like wanted to know when they were going to get picked up or go home. And it was just very helpful for all the students. So sometimes these supports are helpful for everybody, right? Okay. So then, another part of creating an inclusive environment is just participation and engagement. Um, and really targeting where the students' strengths are. Where are they right now? What is not as where we think they should be, but where they are now. That's where we need to start. And otherwise, our students who are not engaged, or if something's too difficult for a student, they may check out or not know how to communicate it in an appropriate way. Another way to support that is, again, we'll talk over and over again about AAC devices and just technology supports. And you will see we have resources for accessing some of those supports towards the end. High quality research-based curriculums and frameworks. We're going to talk a lot about pyramid, embedded instruction, universal design for learning, and then incorporating some really high quality curriculums within that. Like we have Second Step, Frog Street, there's some really great support, as well as just our preschool foundations are wonderful support, right? Like you can get so much out of those frameworks. And then various modes of communication, making sure, some of our students, they may not need sign language, but certain signs might be really helpful. Pictures, a lot of our nonverbal communications are really helpful as well. Okay, and here's some more supports, right? This really helps. I love when we see the pictures of where to put things. It really helps our students understand, how, where everything goes. It can be very overwhelming when we're like, clean up. This really, I did this with my own children at home when they were younger, it's like, clean up. It's like, okay, I'll just stuff everything in that drawer because that's where it should go. I still should be doing that for my son who's in college. He has no idea where anything goes still. And then here are the expectations on the top. You see, we are friendly. Here are some examples of what that looks like. We're respectful. What does that mean? And we are safe. We know now from research that using actual pictures of the students actually makes a really big impact. And then switching those around. We don't want to leave those up all year because then they kind of get used to it. So maybe switching the pictures around and having other students have that opportunity. Okay. Let's see. And then another part, a really important aspect of an inclusive environment are the supports, right? So more and more we're looking at pushing in supports. And actually the state is now looking at that as part of least restrictive environment and collecting data. It's indicator 6. And so many districts, I'm working with a district now who got dinged and another way dinged, but definitely they're looking, and when you're tracking that it's a push-in service, they're looking at that as LRE as opposed to pulling out. And I know it's just a different mindset, but it really does. We know research supports that as well with our students. Yes, there are times they need to be pulled out, but that really, when we're teaching them within the environment that they're learning, it really makes a much bigger impact on their learning and
And
being able to, yes, go ahead.
yeah, and we also want kids to have access to the curriculum in the classroom. So the more they're pulled out, the more they're missing the
Yes,
access that they're typically developing peers are able to, to have access to. So we don't want kids to
yeah,
miss access. So that's
exactly.
a big
And
part of it.
that's like early childhood up to high school, right? We know that even with our English language learners, pulling them out, they are missing really important core curriculum. I'm going to admit somebody. And then, collaborating with your team, it shouldn't be on the backs of one person. It really should be a collaboration, and the parent included, right? Figuring out what works best for that child, and strategizing, and then coming back with the data. Maybe that worked, maybe that didn't work. Maybe that wasn't a very engaging activity. Let's try this. So really working at as a team to come up with different skill sets for the child, and making sure. I mean, this is sometimes out of our locus of control, but administrative support really helps when we're getting support from all parts of the team, including the administration, and providing those trainings for us, and the supplies that we need to really make sure that it's a classroom that's completely accessible. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at just some high quality evidence-based practices. I'm just going to quickly review some. So before we do that, we're going to go back to Mentimeter. To me, this is really important, knowing what your barriers have been to maybe creating inclusive programs, because that helps us in CalEXE support you all. So again, if you could pull, and again, you can put that in the chat, you can do this. It should still be on your phone, but if not, there's the QR code, but I think I can actually, I'm gonna pull it back up so that you can see it. Oh, we're already in there. You guys are awesome. Let's see, training EC classroom, I would say so, yes. And the time, I feel like if we are asking people to train, we have to give people that time to train. I totally agree. And Saturdays are just, I really hate asking people to come in on a Saturday. I just, that's your time to refresh and be with your families. Inclusion with infants and toddlers in a variety of settings. I really think we need to be moving more in that direction, because the earlier we do have inclusive settings, the more that it's going to benefit that child and the other students. And I think that that's really the optimal time to do it. Differences in daycare, social early learning centers. Yeah, lack of knowledge with teachers. Yeah, it's really just a mindset and education. Um, we had something in here too. How do we have a nonverbal child become part of the gen ed class? I've been, and that's where maybe your technology comes in. Maybe some of the resources we have will show you from open access, really figuring out how to work. I've been in classrooms where there were nonverbal children, and you didn't even know they were children with maybe IEPs. We just have to give them those tools.
And it depends on their IEP,
Yep.
what they're using for their communication, whether they have a device, or if, whatever level they're at, what they're using, that can all be incorporated.
And what's fun is you see the other students really interested and participating that way with them, and so the earlier we get everyone on board with, we all are different, we all have different ways of learning and talking, and we all look different. I think the more accepting we're going to be as adults. Okay, so here's some high quality. We are talking long-term research, years and years. So when you're looking at the pyramid model, we have the national model, we have our California model, because we got to Californianize it a little bit. So there's the California pyramid, and we'll show you where you can access tools for that. Universal design for learning, embedded instruction, and practice-based coaching. So I'm going to go through these in case you have not, if you're not aware of some of these frameworks. Here's the pyramid model, and I'm not sure if you've seen this or not, but this is a training that looks at different tiers of support for our students. And so we're looking at really three basic tiers, and you have this foundation where in order for our students to have high quality access to preschool and learning, you need that effective workforce on the bottom of the piers. So we all have to be trained, and we have to be able to communicate and know what pushes our buttons and what flips our lid, and what we can handle and what we may need support from our colleagues. And then we need nurturing. We know that when our children are in a nurturing and responsive relationship, it opens the door to learning. That makes them feel safe. And when they feel safe, then they want to learn. And that's just a basic need that we all have. And then high quality supportive environments. So making sure that we have engaging activities, that we have routines and expectations in place, and that we have that relationship with our students where we're checking in with them, we're making sure that we're giving them emotional support and deposits. And then we have a group of students, our kids don't come in born with social skills. They learn this from their families and from us. So if they're coming in without those basic skills, maybe they didn't learn them at home, they're depending on us. And it's just like learning the ABCs. You have to learn your social skills. So that would be your second tier, where we have students who need more direct instruction with social skills. And then if all of that's in place, you should only have a very small percentage who needs intensive intervention, and that's ongoing challenging behaviors. It is a pattern. It's not where our student comes in and had a really bad day and threw something or whatever it was, or bit another child, but it's ongoing challenging behavior that needs more intervention. And that's the pyramid. And so that's a curriculum or a foundation that you learn throughout 1 year of training. And you can get it, there are free modules, or you can actually go through the WestEd training, and there's a coaching component to it. So you're not just going to sit and hopefully learn. You're going to actually take what you're learning in the trainings and apply it to your classroom and get coaching. So it's a really good way to make sure that you're processing all the information and figuring out what works and what doesn't. Marion, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to just add, so there's the California SEFL, the Social Emotional Foundations for Early Learning component, or there's the pyramid model, correct, Susan? There's two different versions essentially of kind of the same information.
Yes.
I did go through they called it SEFL. They had taken the C off of the beginning of it. They just called it the SEFL model.
Yep.
And I went through this when I was in my administrative role so that I could listen to it and hear information. It was 3 Saturdays in a row, kind of a condensed version. And I brought the information back to the teachers, and it was such valuable information. This would be a great training for all of your staff. It's good for even seasoned teachers to go through, because there's so much that is brought back to their attention that maybe they haven't thought of for a while. It's great for instructional assistants or other support staff. It's a really good start if you're looking for how to address barriers. I saw that, training and training for instructional aids and things like that is sometimes one of the barriers. And this type of training would be an excellent start to kind of overcome that barrier.
Right. And I wanted to remove a barrier by offering at the end, there's resources. So if West Ed is a great training, but they charge, and then if you want to be a trainer, you have to get authorized through the National Pyramid Model, which was developed by Vanderbilt. They have put all their modules online, and so you can access a training module for about $45 for the whole year, or you can just have and then they share all the slides. You have the slides. So that is a way to have access if money is a barrier for training. So I really encourage you to take a look at some of the resources at your, at your leisure.
Yeah, and we did link them at the end of
Yes.
the presentation so that they're easy to find. So you're not having to go through and find them embedded in this presentation. They're all linked at the very end.
Right. Definitely. Okay, so another wonderful framework. So the pyramid is really about social emotional learning and making sure that our students are supported in that so that they have the ability to learn. Embedded instruction is really primarily for students with IEPs who are included in a general education setting. And one thing I wanted to say about pyramid that I forgot, I just don't want to forget, it starts at the infant toddler. There is a framework for that. So if you work with infant toddler, there is a framework for that one too. So embedded instruction now is really taking what a student, and I will show you in the next slide what the process is, but it's basically taking a child's IEP goals, breaking them down into little bit of chunks, and then implementing those skills throughout the day in a classroom, in the routine of the classroom, so that it's the most naturalistic way of learning for the child. And so here is a QR code if you want to access their site. They do have a grant through the CDE if you're interested in learning about it. And I think the contact is in there as well. It's Therese Snyder, and you can find out more about that. And the grant is for training and coaching, and I think for substitutes. It's a really good beefy grant. So check it out. But let me show you a little bit about instruction. So embedded instruction, so for high quality really goals for our early childhood students, we want to start with the California Foundations, which is our standard of learning for early childhood, right? And then we want to develop we want to maybe provide the DRDP. And then from the DRDP, we want to look at areas that it might be challenging. And then you want to develop maybe an IEP goal. And then from that IEP goal, you're going to take that one goal. So maybe it's this year goal about fine motor. And you want to break it up into little chunks that the child can learn within 2 weeks. And then you embed it within a routine that makes sense for them. So if it is an IEP goal about, let's say the child, it's about maybe the child needs to share or whatever, is going to share their toys. So how do you start? You look at where they are, and maybe they just ask, maybe they use one word, or please, or they have support in asking for something. And then we extend it, right? As they meet those small little goals, you extend it. And so you want to work at those goals. If you're looking to share, you may want to do it during free choice or child-directed activities, being outside, areas where that makes sense. Okay, and then universal design for learning is really about designing your classroom for all learners, or your childcare, wherever you have children who have different ways that they access what they're learning. You want to make sure we provide that. So we're just going to assume that a child's going to come in and maybe learns by moving, right? Or maybe we have a child who is a visual learner or learns auditorily, or maybe you have a student with autism and doesn't look directly at the activity, but maybe is a side looker, you know, and maybe can't quite be in with everybody else, but is still accessing education. So just setting up the environment for that. Maybe we have a child that can only sit for 30 seconds. That is okay. So we start where they are and we accommodate their learning differences and provide opportunities to learn. Okay, so in the slides that you have access, we have different resources. The Center for Pyramid Model Innovations has everything national, the National Pyramid. Their website's down, I believe, until tomorrow, and then it should be up and running. They've had some website stuff, but they're constantly updating all their information. That is where you can find out, you can get all the pyramid slides and resources, and resources for parents in many languages. They have Spanish, they have Chinese. I forget some of the other languages they have, but they have resources that you can send home for parents. And then there are even these free online modules that you can have in California Early Childhood. I mean, it's just amazing how much is out there. It can be a little overwhelming. Thanks. PD has a learning how to change the mindset of your team when you're looking at inclusion. Uh-oh, my internet's a little wonky. Inclusive technology that we talked about, AAC, and universal design for UPK, you know, learning about resources for UPK as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
Susan, on the very start of that, I think your internet had cut out. So just at the very top.
Oh, okay, the Impact Inclusion Work Group. Yes, so that is through the CDE, and you can learn more about that just by clicking on the link. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And is that the link that's going to take them to Senate Bill 75?
You know, I think so. Yes, there is a link within that. Yes.
And if you have not yet taken a look at Senate Bill 75, I would really encourage everyone to do that. It really came out from the work group that was put together by the California Department of Ed, Healthcare Agency, Department of Developmental Services. There were county agency partners involved, regional centers, lots of people that came together, and they were tasked with looking at what is needed to improve transitions and assessments and whatnot for young children with disabilities. And there were there's lots of insight and lots of recommendations that came out of that, many of which have really you know, tied into what we're doing through the CalECSE network. But it's a great read. It's very reader friendly. So if you haven't yet taken a look, I would encourage you to do that as well. And now we are to the CalECSE symposium that we wanted to let you all know about. There is a link right here. In fact, Susan, do you mind clicking on that just so we can show the flyer? It should take us to the flyer. So we are going to have an in-person symposium with lots of different topics. It's the Be the One CalECSE Symposium. We have a keynote speaker, Larkin O'Leary, who started the Common Ground Society. She's a parent and she's fantastic. She's had a lot of experience in, you know, navigating inclusive environments and whatnot, and she's going to be speaking. And then as you can see here on the screen, we're going to have all kinds of topics and information, things like alternative dispute resolution. We're going to do some legal policy updates. We're going to have people talking about AAC and AT, interagency collaboration, how to build those strong relationships and navigate those referrals that are coming through. We're going to do some stuff on, you know, parent outreach, family empowerment, data governance. Innovative and inclusive preschool practices will have even more information that will probably go a little bit more in depth in person at that symposium. And we'll be looking at best practices for classrooms, evidence-based practices for use in the classroom and things like that. So if you want to scroll down, Susan, just a little, you can see here that we really, this is open to so many people, teachers, related service providers, special education administrators, anyone kind of related to, you know, early education and preschool, it would be appropriate for. We do still have a call for proposals open until the end of this month as well. So if you are somebody or know somebody who you think would be a fantastic presenter, and they'd like to participate in this symposium, you can pass this information along, pass this flyer along. And we also do have early bird registration that's going on right now, as well, as you can see, at a reduced fee. And if somebody does do a presentation, if they do a proposal for a presentation and it's accepted, then we will be waiving their registration fee, and they would just have to cover the cost of the hotel at the venue, which we have a reduced rate for that as well. It's at Paradise Point, which is a fantastic venue. It's its own little island right in San Diego, right by Mission Bay. So we'd encourage you to take a look at the flyer, the links, and if you know, or would like to come or share this with anyone that you know who might want to come, we'd love that. Did you have anything you wanted to add about that, Susan?
No, I just, I'm looking forward to it. So I think
so
there's going to be some great offerings.
Yes. Yeah, we're anticipating upwards of 400 plus people, and we're already we have I believe close to 300 registered. So it's, you know, and it's not until March, so it's word is spreading, and it's going to be a fantastic symposium, and it's the inaugural CalECSE symposium. So we'd love for you to be a part of it and share it with everyone you know. Okay, we'll go back to the slides.
Okay. I think, any questions?
All right. Yeah, we are finally to our questions. We wanted to leave considerable time for questions. If there's anybody who would like to ask anything, you can go ahead and unmute yourself or put a question in the chat, either way.
Marion, I had a question about, you mentioned about open access.
Yes, yes. So open access, if you're not familiar with that, it is done. So Placer County is the AAC, what we call the alternative communication leads. And so they have put together trainings in adaptive technology, and they're training different districts, but they also have a whole bunch of resources, and they share a Padlet, and it's just a wealth of information. It's really, really amazing. In our SELPA, our Adaptive Technology Center has gone through their training, is now training our whole county, early childhood to high school, and it's really great. And it goes from just simplified, you know, visuals on the wall all the way to, you know, technology, different apps. It's just a lot of information.
And we are really looking to partner with the other technical assistance providers throughout California, open access being one of them. So we are, you know, we're engaging in some collaborative trainings and whatnot with some of our technical assistance partners in the state. So we'll be offering additional upcoming trainings and whatnot related to all of that.
Yeah.
You know, we really want to get the word out. So help us spread the word. We're really looking to grow our listserv as well, because again, we've only been providing some support for about a year now. So while we have quite a large listserv, you know, there's every day there's new additional people that reach out with, you know, like the information. So if you know anyone, please share the information. I'm happy to add them to the CalECSE listserv. But I wanted to also go back to, I had taken a quick little screenshot about some of the barriers, because I want you to know that we take the information that you provide in these kinds of trainings and offerings and whatnot, to provide information. And we look at what you guys are saying. So, you know, training early childhood education classroom staff, especially paraeducators. Sometimes there's a lack of trainings or a lack of time to collaborate, or, you know, there's lots of challenging behaviors out there. Those were some of the things that you guys were sharing with us on that little, what did you call it, Susan? The
Mentimeter.
um, how to address having kids in the classrooms if there's a lack of training with staff, and how, if they don't know how to support that learner. This is stuff that we are here to help you problem solve. This is, we will take this feedback, we will take that information, and we will develop additional trainings for people out in the field around these topics, because we don't want children to have a lack of inclusive opportunities because of a lack of training and things like that. So we will take this information back and we will share it with our team. We have Concordia University, we have a team of research associates who are supporting the CalECSE network. They are able to do additional research around these topics and kind of figure out what's already out there and what's needed, where there's gaps and holes. And they'll help us in supporting you by helping us to develop additional trainings and things like that. So keep your eyes posted for more information coming out from CalECSE about the community of practice groups regarding inclusion. We're going to have new flyers coming out around that very, very shortly. In fact, we were just developing those flyers last week as a group in San Diego. Yeah. So that's going to be coming out in the near future. If you're not on the CalECSE listserv, I encourage you to go to our website, and you can shoot me an email directly, Susan, if you want to put our contact information up. If you send me an email and just say, I'd like to be added to your listserv, I'll make sure to get you on there if you're not already on. And if we can support you in any other regard, whether it's helping you, there's more people coming in, let me admit her. If we can help you by, helping you navigate information or connecting you with resources or other TA providers, whatever it is that you might need, you can feel free to reach out. We're here to support you. And make the information as user-friendly as possible. So with that, I don't know if there's other questions that are coming in to the chat, or if anybody would like to unmute themselves to ask questions, that's fine too.
I have a question. It sounds like ECSE is focused on preschool, on 3 and up, and I'm wondering what is being done with infant toddler as far as inclusion.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. So CalECSE, we do kind of look at, infant programming, and we can support if there's questions around infant program. We do have a number of people in our network that have infant programs that run in their LEAs or counties. What we were asked to do was look at that transition from Part C to B and the assessments and then inclusive practices. So we are probably a little more heavily emphasizing that period of a child's life right around that transition time. However, there are lots of options that are available to children, before age 3. And so we are able to help provide some resources and information around that too. I'm not sure if I'm directly answering your question. Did you have a specific question around that?
Yeah, I have lots of questions about it. I am on an inclusion task force. I work for the San Diego County Office of Education, the infant toddler program, and we have found there are limited opportunities for infants and toddlers for inclusion. And then there's differences between a daycare setting where 2 parents work and they need to put their child in, a daycare 6 to 6, and inclusion looks different in that setting as opposed to a setting where it's more of a social group. So many of the community colleges have child development centers, and a kiddo may go 2 or 3 days a week, and that's more of a social setting. And that setting is very different when you look through the inclusion lens than a daycare setting. And then I think, Susan, you mentioned about the licensing issue. Yes. That's a huge issue in infant toddler inclusion, because we're being told we can't bring in gait trainers. We can't bring in, because it's a licensing issue. I was even told by one daycare, I can't bring in picture schedules for the entire class.
Yeah.
Looking
Janess,
at
I saw Janess shaking her
so I could go on and on.
No, they're not. The problem with licensing is you will get different stories from different folks, and you have to go to the main source, which is in Sacramento. And I've been having trouble getting through to them. but they will tell you what is really allowed and what isn't. Janessa, did you want to add anything?
Not just is their legal right to have these adaptations. So, and it's
Yes.
part of the IFSP. So that we've done that. This county, I'm in Mendocino County. We've been our Head
Oh.
Starts are pretty open to preschool and early childhood people coming in and putting up picture schedules and adaptive equipment, and they've been fine with that. You know, it's been definitely, I've been here about 10 years. There's about 25 years previous to that of building relationships with people. So it's been a long road, but we are at a point where it's just they're using it naturally.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We have established a good relationship with Early Head Start as far as like equipment and providing supports. It's all the other or many of the other daycare providers. Again, when you look at daycare and you look at those social settings, it's just so different. But it's lack of knowledge. And even when we say, you know, it's a child's right to have whatever equipment they may need, and that's one of the things that our program does is provide that equipment. And then it becomes, you know, then they don't really want us there because, you know, it's fear of not knowing, like, how do I use this in the classroom? I don't know. And then, you know, being in the classroom changes the dynamics and the teachers don't really like it. So there's just a lot of work yet to be done. But I appreciate, yeah, that information.
Cindy Jo, sometimes I find that bringing in personal stories really helps that mindset change. So like the Be the One, you know, I'm going to put her contact in the chat, but Common Ground Society, that is really their focus, is really changing that mindset. She was a teacher and then she had a child with Down syndrome, and her mindset from when she was a teacher having children with disabilities and then now as a parent, and she shares stories of just the barriers that she faced having her child in an inclusive site, you know, and I think it really helps if you can bring in those stories to these sites. Also, if you in the resources belonging together, they have an actual certification in inclusion, and it's really great sending teams. They come back so excited about having an inclusive site, you know, where before maybe that was challenging for them.
Yeah, I'd like to add also, Cindy, going back to some of what you just shared, thank you so much for sharing, by the way. Perhaps if you want to reach out to me through CalECSE, I'd be happy to set up a meeting and we could talk a little bit more about how we might collaborate and some of the areas that we might try to address through CalECSE. But I will share that we are, as part of our Child Find obligations under CalECSE and the training around that, we are putting together some trainings that will go out to the community to help, you know, home daycare providers and childcare providers and people like that, to know better what the signs are, what to watch for children with disabilities. And then we can also, I'm sure, include in there you know, strategies for working with children with disabilities and how to include them with their peers and how to engage with them with their peers and whatnot. So these are trainings that obviously there's a lot of need for that we could, you know, possibly look at developing. And I would love to talk with you more and just collaborate with you about that.
Thank you.
I think Marion makes a good point about the training. I think many of our folks are just scared because they don't know what to do, and we don't want to feel like we're not making progress. And so I think once you have the training, it empowers you to work with different learners.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we are providing some trainings that can, you know, for different levels of, you know, of support that are out there, or different levels of educational, you know, childcare entities and things like that. We want to make sure that we're really spreading the word. But I agree with you that that probably is a very big area that there really could be a lot more work in, and obviously a need for additional resources and training and access to, you know, for people to access good programs and to know what to provide make, a good program. And we're going to have some of that information, right? Because there's check sheets that parents can be aware of. We're doing some parent trainings as well, so they know what to look for and what to watch for and the questions to ask before they, do maybe go in and leave their child, with a various provider or caregiver and that kind of a thing. So very, very nice. Thank you so much. And it looks like Janess, did you have a comment or something else you wanted to share?
I have a separate question, and we can go back and revisit it. We're seeing massive numbers, like a massive increase of people, children being identified for needing assessment. And I was just wondering if that was happening to everybody.
Yes. In fact,
Especially autism.
well,
Yes.
really throughout the whole state, I was actually at a conference last week where somebody from DDS was there and talking about the increase in referrals. And I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that they said that from this time a year or two ago, we're up throughout the state, like with about 14% increase in referrals. And I know that I've spoken to a lot of people about this as well. And we think a lot of it has to do with, the COVID
Right, and iPads,
and all of that. So with the kids not getting the socialization opportunities, not being able to go to daycares, providers, or preschools and things like that. These are kids that are now aging up and are entering the school system. And many of them do have delays in social skills or, language or other areas that might be, related to kind of going back to all of this, the impact of COVID and what that had on everybody. So yes, throughout the whole state, people are seeing a large increase or a big influx in an increase in referrals, which is making it challenging, especially if you're, still short staff and that kind of thing, which I
started the school year full. I'm like,
Okay, great.
Where are we putting these children?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you meant
Yeah.
full with staff, but
I'm luckily have full staff, but we're starting a full caseload, and it's like, what do we do to serve these children?
Right.
And
Yes.
what I'm telling you, what we're talking about here at the SELPA is really looking at an MTSS approach. And I mean, we definitely have, if they're coming in through Part C, that's a different issue. But if they're not, really looking at, is this just a matter of needing a little extra like direct instruction, support? So how can we do that on a short amount of time? And if we're making progress, then it really isn't a special education issue. It's not a child find issue. So I think really, visiting an MTSS approach, looking at some, tier 1, tier 2 supports for those kids might be the way to go. We did that back in the day where we had a lot of kids who just were not getting that support in social skills and communication. And we would do like a 4-week, little speech camp. And then if they made progress, then they were moved on.
Nice.
I'd have to get creative, I guess, is what Susan's also saying about
Yes.
how to kind of look at
Because
that.
they're not all, remember, there should be just a small percentage of these kids should be actual special,
Right. And we know that there's some environmental impact. We know that that's definitely the case. So, teasing that out. I know we have only just a few minutes left. I saw also Lauren had her hand up. Lauren, would you like to ask something or comment?
Yeah, you reminded me on that same note I did a lot of work with the EAP grant and specifically around preschool, and we kind of broke down a lot of our SDC classes and did like full inclusion or co-teach models. Beautiful. But as kids are moving from those preschool age services into transitional kinder services, I'm seeing it loop back into special day classes again. And it seems, like we're going the opposite direction. So just wondering if you had any feedback or guidance there on ways to continue to advocate for those kids once they hit school age.
Do you have a UPK group through your county office?
I'm part of what leads that group, and it's just like those baby steps and shifting mindsets and pulling, key players to that team.
Because we are training all our our TK programs here and our kinder programs in the pyramid model, and it's definitely helping that mind shift. So training.
I would say making the forefront of the discussion, really be around the fact that all kids are general ed students first and foremost. And then we have to look at what kinds of supplementary supports and services are needed to address, do they just need accommodations, or, do they have more intensive needs and things like that. So I think kind of bringing the conversation back around to, what the law says. I know that it does take a while, and sometimes there's a big shift that has to take place where, I know that I'm in a district that took some proactive steps to really look at inclusion and to make sure that students were all considered gen ed students and put on a gen ed roster. And then looking at their unique needs and whether those services could be pushed in versus having kids pulled out and whatnot. There were big conversational, conversations that took place and big shifts that took place around that. And, you do have to come back to the drawing table. There are unique circumstances at times and whatnot, but I think it's kind of that whole getting everyone on the same page in terms of the goals and the mindset. I don't know where you guys are at in that process, but we'd be happy to collaborate with you and maybe help come up with some ideas depending on where you're at. If you want to reach out to us, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Part of those UPK dollars are really for inclusion. So I would take a look at what they're supposed to be doing with some of the funding, because it really should be, I mean, part of that whole mindset of UPK was to give more inclusive opportunities too. So so maybe there's this collaboration of the early childhood program with the TK program. I know you said the EAP grant. We had we have many districts here who had the EAP grant, and though it's not used for training for TK, they were certainly allowed to sit in the room. So
yeah, that's what I've been trying to push. Did you see big systematic change when it was coming from trying to engage district level system, site level administrative system, teacher system? Like where do you recommend starting as we begin to build those systems?
Superintendents would be great. We're working towards that. We also have an inclusion task force, and so we're working with our county office administrators, which is great. That's the first time we've ever been able to do that. So we've got the gen ed and the special ed in the room together. And from there, we're going to be doing training with superintendents who are now starting to come on board, because really you have to have them advocating for inclusion. It has to come from the top.
Yeah, we had a collaboration with our director of special ed, who was incredibly proactive and took really, really proactive steps, and was just, sent very clear communication out to everybody about how and why we were doing what we were doing. So I think coming back to some of this, it's the how and why. If you come back to that, so, we've been looking at, why are people sometimes resistant to change and whatnot? We know that that's just human nature, right? But if you really look at why do we need to make these changes, and how can we make it be successful, and coming back to that as kind of this isn't optional. This isn't something that we're going to talk about that would be nice to do. This is something that we need to do because it's in the best interest of students. And it's also, what the law says we have to do. So I think kind of coming back to that, maybe doing some trainings around those pieces can be helpful too. In fact, I have a really great article that I can share with you. Lauren, if you reach out to me, I'll send it to you, that talks a little bit about those kinds of the how and why those are so important to explain. So
thank you.
I think are we about at time? How are we doing on our time here?
We have a minute.
1
But
minute.
it's such a great conversation. I hate to just stop it.
Oh,
It's
it is a great
wonderful.
conversation. Does anybody have any other last pressing questions or final thoughts? I'd like to just real quickly say thank you to all of you who came today. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the work that you're doing out in the field. It's so critical, so important, and you are valued, even if it doesn't feel like it every day. Even if you feel overwhelmed sometimes, just know that the work you do is valuable, important work, and you are. We have gratitude for you. We really do.
And Nupar said, yes, UDL. That's right. UDL will make everyone's life much easier.
Yeah, if we implemented, then nobody would look like they have disability
I've
because we
seen
would
a
have
class like
offered them.
that where you could not tell and everyone was engaged. And so it's a lot of work up front, but it ends up being a lot easier for the educator and more engaging for the students.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
want to share with Lauren the question about
Yes.
how, I was a general ed teacher, and yes, we see that all the work that happens in inclusion in preschool doesn't transfer to general ed. But having been on the other side as a parent, I think it'll be nice to hear and take evidences that work for the child in an inclusion environment and think they could do,
Yes.
and to share that, because that's exactly what I have to do to advocating for my own son,
Yep.
is to take the example and show that different ways of representing the same information and the goals he can meet when he's offered different, it's possible. So you might have to grab the nuggets and share at those team meetings.
Nipur, go to the Common Ground link that I put in the chat, and you will that's exactly what that Common Grounds that's really their goal, is to share that, how important it is to collaborate with the parent.
Yeah, because they see
Really
different
is.
things. It's
And
very key.
it really makes life easier when the parent can share that information and you can use it and the child's successful. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those resources. I'm just putting all of them in a doc, like all these links, just for my learning.
Awesome. Yeah. No, the more we can get out there and share, and the more people can access it. And then it's a matter of implementing, right? People can access, but you have to read it and you have to implement. So that's a whole nother thing. So knowing the why and then how do we do it? How do we implement? That's going to be the big trainings that need to take place to shift your mindset. But thank you everybody so much for your comments, for coming, for the work that you do, spreading the word. We appreciate it. Yay.
Yay. Enjoy the
Thank you.
conference. You guys
Yeah,
are
enjoy the
wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. I think that went really well.
Yeah.
So, that was a nice conversation, and the end, and hopefully people can reach out so we can help, problem solve a little bit individually with them and whatnot. But yeah, I think at one point, I think we had about it. Well, it said 10, but then there's us, so maybe we had 7 or so. I don't know if it's because the main conference is happening in person for the next 2 days, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, some people might be traveling today, or there could be a varying reasons why we didn't have a whole lot of people. But since this will be made accessible, people might be able to pull it up and then just go to the links and whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be sharing that when we do the training. And Marion, you were talking about a school district that was successful. I wanted to know the name of that school district. You mentioned.
oh,
I was
well,
like, I would need to know that place.
Oh, the district that I work in, Saddleback Valley Unified School District. I
That's
haven't.
the one that implemented inclusion.
Yeah, yeah, we did. We made a huge shift. We stopped the whole, kids that were in SAI instruction at the preschool level.
Okay.
Because, a lot of them, because we had limited opportunities for inclusion at preschool, although we were growing those opportunities, but we also took a look at, let's get everybody on a gen ed roster and let's look at what they really need. So we started having team meetings with the program specialists and principals to kind of talk about the unique needs of each student that were coming their way and how we could best serve them, and with the intent of having them be served in the classroom to the extent appropriate for their goals and for those students. And then of course they could still have pull-out services. Now that's not to say there weren't some kids that needed more time, but the idea that they would just sort of age up into into a specialized classroom, we really took a hard look at that and said, we want to make sure that if they are capable of being included, and it's appropriate for them and would benefit them, that's happening. So there was a really big shift in that. I'm not going to say it wasn't without, a few bumps in the road, but our director was so positive and so proactive, and she just, really kind of put it out there. This is what needs to happen. And, I think overall it was a pretty big success. And I think they're in year 3 of it now.
Wow.
And I think it's continuing to be successful. Yeah.
That's impressive. Thank you.
How old is your son?
My son is 12 now, but he has an IP since.
What district?
He's at Union School District.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in San Jose. Where are you at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in South San Jose.
Yeah, you should contact Common Ground. What's really cool about them, they're a nonprofit, but they actually come out and do presentations for schools and
Hmm.
communities, and it's called Just Two Moms.
Oh,
And they go outside of the county and do these presentations. I think they're booked for the year already, but
wow.
she's presented at this conference, I think last year. She was a keynote, I want to say. Um, I think she was a keynote, but anyway, she is really, we work with this organization in our inclusion task force because it makes
Okay.
such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindset is the biggest thing.
And that's all, I mean, that's really what it is. It's all about mindset. And that's really their goal as they're an organization is mindset and education.
Mm. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Yeah, I'm checking out the website. Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Okay. Well, have a great rest of your
Yeah, we hope you have a
conference.
great rest of your conference, and
Thank you for helping.
thank you for allowing us to come and present.
Oh,
And
wow. I didn't know what it was. I learned so much. So thank you.
Oh,
oh,
Yeah.
good.
good.
Yeah.
We can do it next year, huh, Marion?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so cool. You must.
Definitely.
You're just getting started. So this is great. The more
And
word out.
everything I learned was from Santa Clara. Like this, I learned all about inclusion and
Media.
embedded instruction, and
Mhm.
yeah, so they were a big influence on me and getting started here. So
Yeah.
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 All
Thank you
right.
so much. Nice to meet you,
Take
Cindy.
care,
Nice to meet you, Mary.
everybody.
Bye.
Okay, have a good day,
Bye-bye.
ladies. Okay, bye.